So what happened when the consciousness merged, that had to be purged out of the etheric body, if you will, or the biosphere of the body, or the mind body, and it just started to feel as if I was or had lived these two being the in-laws life. Like suddenly I was them, and I saw their whole pain, their whole construct, what they did, how they were toxic, how this stuff is, and it was in me. The being had taken it all, and the others gave it to this person because that's what they did, and they never took any responsibility. So there was allowance and acceptance. Whoever would take that could take it. And now I suddenly had to feel all of that. So my body started to just purge it and cry for the sorrow, for the sadness, for the toxicity, for the hurt, for the pain, and all of that was just stored in there, which didn't belong to her. And there was about 4 major memories where I felt it this so much in the body, like this pain, and these people that were supposed to have been helped by this being, all she did was take this on as if she was the one suffering, and it all had to purge out. What happened unconsciously to her is while she was doing this, her body had what we call an empathic behavior, where instead of actually being equal to the process and walking the person through their own stuff and them taking responsibility, she took responsibility for it and absorbed those pains and suffering and held them inside of the body, in the energetic biosphere of the body. So let's say it could be in the auric body. It's very difficult to explain because everything is working together. In your energy field, you absorb these frequencies, either consciously or unconsciously. And you think you're healing the other person by doing this, and the other person feels better because it's like, here, you take the trash, and you say, okay, I'll take the trash because I can handle it, because I don't have a lot of trash, and I'll just fill it up for you so you would be relieved of your suffering. So when the consciousness merged with this, had to be purged. So one example of that is the situation with in-laws in their life was very stressful and traumatic, and actually held a big strong catalyst for this being trying to question everything, because the stress and the conflict and the toxic behavior and unhealthy way of how these in-laws dealt with things, this person put themselves in the mediator position to try to be the mediator for the family through the husband. And also, nobody really wanted to deal with this. They've been dealing with this toxic behavior for decades. And this being decided like they were going to hold a strong point. And in doing so, and all of these traumas, she would actually take on a lot, thinking she was healing, but she was actually taking stuff that wasn't hers to hold and bear, and being somewhat like you could consider a martyr type of empathic behavior, where your body's absorbing it, whether you're conscious of it or not, because that's how the system works. And when you don't take 100% responsibility, or a being doesn't, and you're taking and trying to heal them, it's not even healing them. You're just absorbing their stuff and holding it on with you. So you ultimately suffer if you don't come from the starting point of, I take 100% responsibility for everything. So she didn't take 100% responsibility for absolutely everything. So some of these bigger circumstances where she was really trying to help another person. She absorbed a lot of the suffering. And how I saw it, there was a few ways that was done. She accepted and allowed it at an unconscious level. So in her support, which she viewed in her script, this is what you do. You help other people, you turn the other cheek, you just open up your heart to them, and through you, they will heal and you will help them. And it doesn't matter if you have your own problems, theirs are potentially more than you. And there's always someone that you can give to. And in that unconscious part, there was no self awareness of that, took the responsibility away from the other person. And then you have it also being thrust from the other person who doesn't want to take responsibility and wants a quick fix and feels better talking to you because they just dumped all their stuff in you. So what happened when the consciousness merged, that had to be purged out of the etheric body, if you will, or the biosphere of the body or the mind body. And it just started to feel as if I was or had lived these two being the in-laws life. Like suddenly I was them, and I saw their whole pain, their whole construct, what they did, how they were toxic, how this stuff is, and it was in me. The being had taken it all, and the others gave it to this person because that's what they did, and they never took any responsibility. So there was allowance and acceptance. Whoever would take that could take it. And now I suddenly had to feel all of that. So my body started to just purge it and cry for the sorrow, for the sadness, for the toxicity, for the hurt, for the pain. And all of that was just stored in there, which didn't belong to her. And there was about 4 major memories where I felt it so much in the body, like this pain and these people that were supposed to have been helped by this being. All she did was take this on as if she was the one suffering, and it all had to purge out. And quite frankly, it's a painful process. When I describe it now, you wouldn't want to do this. You would not want to hold other people's pains and suffering as your own. And the system is designed to work a certain way, and just through the mind system and the unconscious overlays and scripts that are placed upon us in a container structure like this, it works this way because you're giving consent, whether you are aware or unaware. Your consent is in your unawareness as well. So I say that this is fascinating, and if you can learn from this wherever you are in your journey, and you're working in healing work, or you're a mediator in your family, or you're stressed by your family, your mother, it's a possibility that you are actually absorbing the pains and the sufferings of other people. And this is like against life, right? So as I was purging, I literally was these people, and I was just like sobbing, and now I'm just getting it out, and it's just coming out, and I no longer accept it. It's just almost like puking out, and I go back to that Garden of Gethsemane with Christ, because imagine if Christ is also having awarenesses, and it's a story that I share, like it's just a repeated story, and we're not given all the parts of it, and potentially Christ himself also had to purge out of his body all the sufferings that he took on unconsciously in that garden, and had to purge it. And that would be painful, because the pain part of that is the self-realization of what you have done. And yeah, I wouldn't want anybody to do it this way, because it's unconscious and it's against God. So if you can learn from the message of the message, then technically, yeah, that was done. So you would realize what you're doing and how it works, so that you wouldn't have to do it. Not that anybody would come back and save you. You would just self-realize, and then you would be able to purge all of this and actually be able to any beings that coming in and had this information would be able to use their frequency in their body in an unabusive way and be able to really come from the heart and not take on the pains and sufferings of others. In fact, it could stand in a starting point of always from what is best for all, and this wouldn't occur. So, this part of the coming in, I purged. There was a moment where one of the memories, this this being, she had in her practice of trying to become a healer and help other people, she had a very close friend who ended up having overdose and was in the hospital in a coma, and they were all together in a coma for 10 days, but they were on kidney dialysis. Their liver had shut down, and in the beginning it was very unsure if she was going to make it. And she was very connected to this being at a spiritual level and like a sisterly love, and took it upon herself to do the healing work for her and on her behalf while she was in the coma. And the family had allowed her to go in to the hospital and do all of these healing modalities that she had learned. And in that experience, she was doing the same thing, like really taking uh, pains and suffering as the person herself, even though she was healthy and well. And the friend was in the hospital with a breathing tube, was in a coma, and the family was around, and the family actually trusted this being and said, yeah, you can come in and do your healing work, although they didn't really have a high belief in it. They were also Mormon, some of them, and they also wanted to pray, and she was getting priesthood blessings. And I was in there seeing how she just took all of the responsibility to try to heal this being and could see things and had visualizations and all of these things. And in doing so, this is what was happening. So when the being woke up, she was there to meet her that day and see. And they shared this moment where they cried together that she was waking up, but she couldn't really talk because she had the breathing tube. And then she was there when the day that they took the breathing tube out, and they had this whole spiritual conversation. And that was just shortly before I walked in. This memory had happened. So that also, the whole script overlay, as if I was this person in the hospital, that I was getting the breathing tube ripped out. And I felt all of it. Like I was there in this body, and the purging of suddenly like having this breathing tube taken out of you. And I felt it come out of me physically. And as it was coming out, it hurt a lot, like the memory hurt. And it was coming out of me, and I was just horrified of that experience, but it had to come out. And quickly I was doing this. So these memories were coming hard and fast, and I was doing it. And so all of those memories purged. And once those got out, and the pains and the suffering of these beings were all out of this physicality, and the merging happened, I finally could speak as who I am now, even though I was having the life memory integration and all the data connected as the other being whose name is Cassandra. And therefore, as soon as that merging was, the suffering and all of that was complete, I could talk, and I felt calm, and I knew that now I had to sit up and communicate with the husband who I knew as the husband. And before I could do that, I started talking to him, and I said, I don't know what to tell you. Because now what happens is, as you integrate, you're going to be this person in the sense of there's data and information, your age, where you live, what you did up till that point. You can drive a car, you can cook meals, you have all the data, right? You just have the instruction set is all there, and you're just, those two consciousness come together. And this consciousness that comes with the data of how to live in this world and do all these things was bigger than any being that had entered before and lived that out. And there was no script. So in that moment, there was a point that I didn't know who I should be called because I had already made the decision like this, I'm not going to live this way. So we got a problem. We've got a challenge here because I need to know my name. I need to know when I go back, and I'll live this out and I'll do whatever it is I need to do, but I do need to know what my name is. And I couldn't find it. I was like, I know it's there, so I've got to somehow pull it up. And I said to the man who I knew was my husband, and I agreed to, I then was in tune to accept all of the information and just be consciousness merged with the life of Cassandra without the script and without the toxic overload or any of that. It was just information with consciousness. And I knew that I had to get up. I knew now that it was important. There was a list of things that we had to do that day. There was an instruction set. We were there for a conference. It all came flooding in. Okay, we're there for a conference. We got to change hotels. We're at one conference. We're changing hotels. We're going to check into another room. And then the conference, the festivities that night were going to happen. And all of the information that I needed to know. So therefore, I had to get up. And now, like, this was a completion point, and I had to acknowledge that. So it was a little bit, there was a moment where I was like, I know this information, and I got to get up, and I'll do my best to do that. I'm not sure how to explain this to him. And because of his background in the Mormon Church and being a priesthood holder, so in the Mormon Church, the men get the priesthood, and they get higher levels of priesthood, and one of them is called the Melchizedek priesthood, and he had the power to give blessings and to pray. And all he knew, he said to me, was like, I want to help you. Maybe I can give you a blessing. And the first response in myself was like, oh, that is ridiculous. So I had this speed of thought all at once. So I'm having like the response from the Cassandra version, and then I have the greater understanding of what that is all at once. So if I slow it down, it was like this. The Melchizedek priesthood that which you would be empowered with is false. It's actually so not true of what you were told that you have from a power of the priesthood point, that if you come and you give me a blessing from that point, it's literally like you might blowing hot air. Oops, you're blowing hot air. Now, also at the exact same moment, I scanned his being, his knowledge, and I could see that when he asked and offered this, he was in his heart. The frequency didn't come from his empowerment of what he was given by the Mormon Church. It came like in a genuine heart-centered, I want to help you, and this is my gift, and this is what I can offer. So I accept it because in his way, it would be a way that he knew, and that I also could see that he could channel information that I needed. So I allowed it, even though I had a great repulsion to the actual idea that this was called a priesthood blessing. So he came over and he prepared, and he laid his hands on me, and he proceeded to just give me a blessing in his own way. I don't remember how he opened it or how he started, but the moment that he put his hands on me, all of my questions that I had in my highest consciousness and understanding, I would have it only by telepathic. And telepathically, I needed to know certain answers. And without me asking verbally, he was telling me and giving me all the information I needed. And in that moment, he really was a true vessel and access channel point for giving me the information and the codes that I needed to fully integrate